first time I was called an instigator, I was a freshman in a mandatory shop class at Audubon High School. Written in the comments section next to the C- that I definitely deserved was this word: instigator. It wasn't intended to be a compliment. I am guessing that my ability to produce sarcasm was not as appreciated, and I could not create a wooden napkin holder. And so my teacher, unimpressed, gave me this remark: in truth, in most settings outside of education and prison, being an instigator is seen as a positive. In social justice, when we think of past instigators, names come to mind. Names like Rosa Parks or Harvey Milk. In technology, we think of Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg. And right here in downtown Fargo, we think of this lady, right? Karen Stoker. You get the idea. So what is an instigator? Well, if you look around this room, you'll see a ton of them. But a simple Google definition will give you this. I think the last 4 synonyms are closer to my shop teacher's remarks. Fast forward 30 years, and now this troublemaker, rabble-rouser, agitator, ringleader is a teacher. And I have 3 children, 2 of whom have navigated through public education very successfully. This is Sadie. She graduated from college, super proud of her. And her sweet sister, Izzy, who is on the same track. She has learned to play the game, and she plays it pretty well. And then there's Finn. I love this picture of Finn. This was taken at 3 o'clock in the morning. I woke up to hear the shower running. I walked into the bathroom. I flipped on the light, and this is what I found in the shower. Apparently, he didn't want to get his hair wet or wake me up. I knew we were in for a long academic road with Finn when at 4 years old, he was kicked out of daycare. One of his misdeeds still makes me giggle. He couldn't understand why he couldn't sing himself loudly to sleep at nap time. When I walk into parent-teacher conferences, I see teachers take a deep, cleansing breath. And it was at one such conference about Finn when I first heard that word used to describe him. Finn is an instigator. The problem wasn't just that he wouldn't sit still during read-aloud time. He was doing somersaults all the way around the periphery of the story circle. The problem was the wilder Finn would become, the wilder the classroom would come. Finn's an instigator, and schools are not happy places for instigators. I've gone into the closet to grab a blanket to wrap around my sweet sleeping child, only to grab it, shake it out, and discover more than a dozen pink disciplinary slips that fluttered to the floor, hiding there. I get it. Finn is a lot to manage. And if he is unengaged, he will engage elsewhere, which is why the same day that he can be student of the week in music class, he can be sent to the principal's office twice. Finn represents a whole group of kids at school who are at risk. Kids who are not at risk for academic reasons, though we have plenty of those. Kids who are not at risk because of language barriers or poverty or neglect, though we have a lot of those as well. These are kids who are at risk because they are smart, they are energetic, and they are creatively frustrated in the classroom. These are the kids who know the hoops to jump through, can easily jump, but just don't like the hoop. And the education system fails them, or at least fails to recognize the urgency of their needs. The problem is this. When we teach creative, energetic kids to hate school, we are shortchanging the instigators of future change. And to be clear, I get it. The needs in today's classroom are immense. The average teacher is trying to reach the student who is reading 4 grade levels or below their peers, feed the kid who came to school hungry, and nurture the kid whose second language is English. So the kid tap dancing out in the hallway is mostly an irritant, right? Finn's issue is he has too much energy. In the United States, according to the Center for Disease Control, more than 1 in 10 kids has been diagnosed with ADHD. And more than 3.5 million are taking drugs to curb the symptoms, which range from hyperactivity to lack of focus. Isn't it ironic that the thing we are most medicating kids for, in epidemic proportions, people, too much energy, that's the very same thing that adults we seek. When did youthful energy become a detriment? So my question is this: are high energy kids the problem, or is the problem the classroom these kids are in? Maybe the issue has less to do with genetics and more to do with culture. Finn and kids like him struggle in environments where compliance equals sitting still. And not sitting still equals you might lose your recess. Our second issue is this: we need more teacher instigators. Part of the issue is the type of person who is attracted to teaching. Those who go into the field of teaching are, by and large, people for whom education worked, right? They liked school. I mean, if you don't like to swim, you don't become a scuba diver. If you don't like amusement parks, you don't work at Disney World. If you are petrified of public speaking, you typically don't give a TED Talk. I am the exception. If we are to fix education, we need to fill our classrooms with the very adjective we use to describe our least appealing kids. We need the people for whom education didn't work. In short, we need the instigators. I went into teaching because I was excited to use my ideas about art and literature and philosophy, and it seemed to me that education would be a place where my creativity could flourish. So it is disheartening to watch the politics of education reform, where teachers' flexibility is limited by a one-size-fits-all approach to kids. When the primary focus of staff development is testing data, it limits teachers, not just students. So, how do we instigate for change in education? I think we need to begin by reevaluating our educational climate. An overemphasis on standardized testing has done huge damage to our schools, people. When we start to think the best way to measure a kid is through their math and reading scores, we have missed the mark. I get it. Those things are easy to measure, but they are not what's most important. Our students who create poetry out of despair, these are our instigators. Value their growth. Our young musicians who create harmony using strings, air, brass, and wood, these are our instigators. Value their growth. Our young artists who through the lens of a camera challenge the world, these are our instigators. Value their growth. And our young performers who are raising social issues through theater. These are the instigators I love. Value their growth. The link between arts and achievement is clear. The arts improve school culture. When schools integrate the arts across the curriculum, magical things happen. Discipline issues decrease, and the effectiveness of instruction increases. And the arts, one of our most precariously budgeted for programs, these are the classrooms that hold Instigators. Which is why, despite a multitude of TED Talks on STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, I am not a fan. Give me STEAM. The arts should be at the center of these reforms. A recent study done at Michigan State University discovered a disproportionately high number of Nobel Prize winners in the sciences were also artists. It seems talent in one leads to talent in the other. Perfect example, Albert Einstein. He struggled in school, but he found his mind's clarity through violin, and he continued to play until he could no longer do so. Creatively gifted kids are unlikely to unwrap their gifts alone. I am so grateful to say that my son has had amazing teachers who have helped him unwrap his. I think of Mr. Dewar, who channeled all of Finn's creative energy with stress balls and creative dramatics. Or Ms. Lordeman, who left space in the margins of the worksheet so that Finn could illustrate his answers. All kids deserve a Mr. Dewar or a Ms. Lordeman. So, let's start to listen to our instigators, and not just the attentive ones in the front row. Let's start paying attention to the kid who is daydreaming and seems to be zoned out, or the kid who is bouncing his knees in the back, or the kid doodling away his days. These are our instigators. Maybe if we spent less time trying to micromanage these kids, we could manage some real change in education. And look, I know what I'm saying is not easy. I teach speech communication. I have learned that when you nurture kids to find their voices, it is an amazing and a scary thing. It is amazing because their truths resonate. And it is scary because sometimes when they find their voices, they use them to scream at you. If you walk through the halls of our schools, the screams are silent, but they are deafening. Our student instigators are screaming in their seats to be engaged. Our teacher instigators are screaming at their desks for less focus on standardized testing and more on critical thinking. And our schools are screaming for real reform that has arts at its core. And I think it's time we listened.